What if, far from Earth, beneath the frozen shell of a distant moon, there lies an ocean deeper and wider than any on our planet? What if, in that dark and hidden sea, life has been swimming quietly for millions of years, unseen by any human eye? Tonight, we turn our gaze to Europa, one of Jupiter's mysterious moons, a world where silence reigns on the surface, but where whispers of an alien ocean call to us from beneath the ice. Picture the scene. High above the giant planet Jupiter, a moon drifts in endless orbit. From a distance, it shines with a pale light, its surface gleaming white, crisscrossed with long, thin scars the color of rust. These lines stretch like veins across its icy skin, hinting at movement, at energy, at something restless beneath the surface. Unlike our barren moon, Europa holds secrets that are not in its mountains or craters, but hidden far below, where sunlight cannot reach. Scientists believe that under Europa's icy crust lies a global ocean of liquid water, kept warm by the gravitational embrace of Jupiter. The immense pull of the gas giant stretches and squeezes Europa's interior, creating heat through tidal forces. That warmth may melt the frozen depths, leaving behind a sea so vast that it could contain twice as much water as all of Earth's oceans combined. Now close your eyes and imagine it. A world covered in ice, silent, still, untouched by human hands. Yet beneath that frozen crust, an ocean stretches outward, dark and endless. A place where strange currents flow and unseen creatures may drift. No sunlight pierces those waters. Instead, energy comes from vents at the seafloor, volcanic heat rising from deep within the moon. Around those vents, life could exist, tiny, fragile, but alive. Just as on Earth, in the darkest parts of our oceans, entire ecosystems thrive without light, feeding on chemical energy instead of the sun. The thought is humbling. On Earth, we often think of oceans as familiar, as places of comfort and exploration. But on Europa, the ocean is hidden, locked beneath ice thicker than mountains, unreachable by human ships or divers. To us, it is a mystery, a place we cannot yet touch. And yet, from that mystery comes possibility. The possibility that we are not alone in the solar system, that life may have found another home in the dark waters of a frozen moon. As you listen, let your breath slow, like the steady pull of Jupiter on its moon. Each inhale draws in the wonder of possibility. Each exhale releases the weight of the day, leaving you lighter, calmer. Tonight's story is not one of fear, but of awe of the quiet beauty of worlds beyond our own. Europa waits in silence, but its silence is not emptiness. It is a lullaby sung across the void, an invitation to dream of oceans beneath alien skies. So let us begin this journey. We will wander through the history of discovery, the science that hints at hidden seas, the anomalies that defy our understanding, and the dreams that Europa inspires in us. Step by step, we will move deeper into its mystery. And as we do, may the questions themselves carry you gently into rest, like waves rocking you to sleep. Welcome, dear dreamers, to this quiet space where mysteries of the universe unfold not with urgency, but with calm. Here, questions that stir the imagination are told as gentle stories, guiding you slowly toward rest. This is a channel made for wonder, for curiosity, and for sleep. Each night we take journeys across time and space, weaving science and speculation into narratives designed to comfort and soothe. Tonight, we turn our attention to Europa, the enigmatic moon of Jupiter. Beneath its frozen crust, a vast ocean may stretch for miles, silent and unlit, yet possibly alive. It is a story of science, but also of dreaming. It is a reminder that even as we sleep, the cosmos continues to move, to change, to invite us into awe. If these explorations bring you peace, if they help your mind slow and your body soften, I invite you to linger with us. A gentle like, a quiet subscription, or a comment shared helps this community of curious listeners grow. Together, we form a constellation of dreamers scattered across the earth, connected by nothing more and nothing less than wonder. And I would love to know where you are listening from tonight. Are you resting in the stillness of midnight in Vietnam, where the air is warm and heavy with silence? Or are you in America, where city lights glow even after the sun has set, yet where the imagination still travels far beyond the skyline? Perhaps you are somewhere else entirely, on a quiet mountain, by the sea, or in a small town where the stars shine clearly. What time is it in your world as you listen? And have you ever dreamed of oceans not on Earth, but on distant moons? These small questions matter, because they remind us that we are not alone in our curiosity. We are a gathering of dreamers, listening under one sky, each adding light to this quiet constellation. Wherever you are and whatever the hour, you are part of this circle. So let us move onward together. Ahead lies the story of how Europa was first discovered, how telescopes and spacecraft revealed its frozen shell, and how hints of a hidden ocean began to emerge from the silence. This is where science and imagination meet, and where mystery becomes a gentle companion on the path to sleep. The first sightings. The story of Europa begins not with rockets or spacecraft, but with a simple telescope, lifted skyward more than 400 years ago. It was the winter of 1610 when Galileo Galilei, in Italy, turned a handmade telescope toward the giant planet Jupiter. The instrument was modest, its glass imperfect, its field of view small. Yet through it, Galileo saw something no human had ever noticed before. For small points of light circling Jupiter. They moved night by night, not fixed among the stars, but bound to the giant world. These were moons, companions of Jupiter, and Europa was one of them. To Galileo, the discovery was revolutionary. Until then, many believed that Earth sat unmoving at the center of creation, with all else circling around it. But here was proof that not everything orbited Earth. Jupiter had its own family, and by extension, perhaps the universe was far larger, far stranger, than people had dared to imagine. Europa, though tiny in his view, helped reshape the very framework of human thought. For centuries after, Europa remained little more than a dot of light in the sky, glimpsed through telescopes that slowly improved over time. Astronomers measured its orbit, its size, its reflectivity. They learned that it was unusually bright, its surface reflecting more sunlight than most moons. From this, they guessed that Europa was covered in ice, a frozen world circling a planet of storms. But the details remained hazy, out of reach. Picture those early nights of observation. Cold observatories on mountaintops, glass lenses pointed upward, astronomers sketching what they saw in notebooks by the light of lanterns. Europa, faint but steady, moving across the sky as Jupiter pulled it endlessly along its path. To the observers, it was a mystery too distant to grasp, yet one that invited endless speculation. Was it a barren rock like our own moon? Or did its icy glow hint at something hidden, something waiting beneath the surface? Through the centuries, as telescopes grew larger and photography replaced hand-drawn sketches, Europa's image sharpened. It became clear that its surface was smooth compared to other moons, lacking the craters that marked worlds like Callisto or our own lunar surface. Instead, strange lines and fractures scarred its face, reddish streaks that stretched for hundreds of miles. These markings seemed almost like writing, as if the moon itself bore inscriptions waiting to be read. Even then, the idea of an ocean beneath the ice was only a dream, a whisper among astronomers who dared to imagine more than they could prove. They spoke of the possibility quietly, as though sharing a secret. If the ice was not solid all the way down, if heat from Jupiter's tidal forces melted the depths, then perhaps Europa was not dead, but alive with motion. And where there is water, there may be life. As you listen to this, let your mind drift back to those early nights. Imagine yourself standing beside Galileo, peering through his modest telescope, shivering in the chill, seeing those tiny points of light for the first time. Feel the wonder of realizing that our world is not alone in having companions. That Jupiter, a giant planet we cannot reach, has a family of its own. And that among them, Europa waits, bright, smooth, silent, holding secrets we could not yet imagine. The first sightings did not give us answers, only questions. But questions are the beginning of discovery. Europa entered human awareness as a faint light, a companion of Jupiter. Centuries later, it would become much more. A symbol of mystery, of possibility, and perhaps of life hidden in silence. The age of spacecraft. For centuries, Europa remained a distant light, its secrets hidden behind the blur of earthbound telescopes. But in the late 20th century, humanity gained new eyes carried by spacecraft, machines that could travel beyond Earth and look closely at worlds we had only dreamed of. With them came the first true glimpses of Europa, not as a dot of light, but as a world with a face, a surface, and a story written across its frozen plains. In 1979, the twin Voyager spacecraft swept through the Jovian system. Built to be explorers, their cameras turned toward Europa as they passed, capturing images that would forever change our understanding. The photographs showed a world unlike any we had expected. Its surface was startlingly smooth, with few craters, as though something had erased the scars of impacts that covered other moons. Across this smoothness stretched long, dark lines, fractures that crisscrossed the ice like veins on a pale hand. Some of the lines curved and looped, others stretched straight for hundreds of miles, suggesting a restless surface, a crust that shifted and broke. The images hinted at something extraordinary. On a geologic scale, Europa's surface looked young, far younger than the battered faces of other moons. Something had resurfaced it, smoothing away craters and painting it with scars of movement. Scientists began to suspect that beneath the crust of ice, heat and motion stirred. The possibility of a hidden ocean, once only a whisper, grew louder. Years later, in the 1990s, the Galileo spacecraft orbited Jupiter for nearly a decade, turning its instruments toward Europa again and again. Its cameras showed the surface in higher resolution. Ridges rising like frozen waves, chaotic regions where ice plates seemed to have broken apart and refrozen. Vast plains broken by cracks filled with reddish material. These were not the features of a dead world. They were signs of activity, of movement, of something dynamic beneath the silence. Even more compelling was Galileo's measurement of Europa's magnetic field. As the moon passed through Jupiter's immense magnetosphere, it reacted in ways that suggested the presence of a conductive layer beneath the ice. The best explanation was a salty ocean, vast and global, hidden beneath a shell of frozen crust. It was the first strong evidence that Europa was not a barren world, but one that might cradle an ocean larger than any on Earth. Picture those moments in mission control, the scientists leaning over their consoles, watching as data arrived from millions of miles away. Line by line, pixel by pixel, Europa revealed itself. To them, it must have felt like standing on the edge of revelation, knowing that they were seeing a place no human had ever imagined so clearly before. A moon that was not dead rock, but something far richer, a world with a secret ocean beneath its frozen skin. The age of spacecraft transformed Europa from speculation into possibility. No longer a faint dot, it became a world with character, with youth, with mystery. And in the silence of that ocean, unseen but increasingly certain, humanity found a new frontier of wonder. As you imagine this, let your breath flow like the data streaming back to Earth, steady and patient. With each inhale, picture the crisp images of Europa's scarred surface appearing on screens. With each exhale, feel the awe of those who first realized what it meant. We had discovered an ocean world, hidden in plain sight, orbiting Jupiter, waiting silently for us to notice. The evidence for an ocean. By the time the Galileo spacecraft had finished its long watch over Jupiter and its moons, Europa was no longer just a curiosity. It had become a candidate for one of the most extraordinary possibilities in the solar system. A hidden ocean, vast and global, lying beneath a shell of ice. But how could such an ocean be inferred from so far away? The answer came from multiple strands of evidence, woven together like threads of a tapestry. The first clue was the magnetic field. Europa itself is too small to generate one of its own. Yet as Galileo measured the invisible lines of Jupiter's powerful magnetosphere, it noticed that Europa responded as though a conductive layer wrapped beneath its surface. The most natural explanation was saltwater, an ocean, hundreds of miles deep, charged with dissolved minerals that allowed it to interact with Jupiter's field. It was like finding the fingerprints of an unseen sea, traced not by light, but by invisible forces. The second clue lay in the surface itself. Voyager had already revealed Europa's smooth plains, and Galileo showed them in detail. Craters were scarce, meaning the surface must be geologically young. Something was resurfacing the moon. Across the ice stretched ridges and cracks, sometimes double lines that suggested plates of frozen crust pushing and pulling, breaking apart and freezing again. In places, chaotic terrains looked like shattered icebergs, frozen mid-drift. These patterns mirrored movements we know on Earth: fractures in sea ice, plates shifting atop oceans, surfaces broken by the restless waters below. The third clue came from the reddish streaks that stained Europa's white surface. Spectral analysis suggested salts and compounds pushed upward from the depths, as if the ocean had reached through cracks in the ice to leave its mark on the surface. It was as though the moon was whispering of what lay hidden, giving us faint chemical hints of its inner sea. And then came the most dramatic hint of all: plumes. The Hubble Space Telescope, orbiting Earth, captured faint evidence that water vapor was erupting from Europa's south polar regions, shooting high above the surface before falling back down. If confirmed, these geysers would mean the ocean was not entirely sealed, but occasionally vented into space, offering samples for us to study without drilling through miles of ice. To imagine this is to picture a fountain in the darkness, droplets from an alien ocean spraying silently into the void. All of these clues together formed a compelling story. Beneath perhaps 10 to 20 miles of ice, there may lie an ocean 100 miles deep, an ocean that could hold more water than all the seas of Earth combined. And where there is water, scientists remind us, there may be life. Picture this thought gently as you rest. Imagine floating beneath a ceiling of ice, in a sea so vast you cannot see its end. Around you, it is dark, silent, except for the faint glow of hydrothermal vents rising from the seafloor. In the blackness, strange creatures drift, perhaps no larger than microbes, perhaps something more complex. They feed not on sunlight, but on chemical energy, their world hidden, ancient, and untouched. Europa may never reveal all of its secrets to us, but even the possibility is enough to stir the human spirit. For the first time, we could point to a place beyond Earth where an ocean truly exists, where the recipe for life is not just speculation but something tangible. And that knowledge, like the whisper of waves beneath ice, invites us to dream. The growing fascination. When the evidence for a hidden ocean on Europa began to accumulate, the scientific community did not react with indifference. Instead, fascination spread like ripples across still water. At first, the discussions remained cautious, filled with technical phrases and measured tones. Reports spoke of conductive layers and possible water reservoirs, terms designed to avoid excitement. But beneath that careful language, a quiet wonder grew. For if even half of the clues were true, Europa was more than just another moon. It was a world that might harbor life. Space agencies began to reshape their priorities. Plans for missions were drawn, cancelled, revived, and redesigned. Concepts for orbiters, landers, and ice-penetrating probes appeared in proposal documents. The European Space Agency committed to a mission called JUICE, the Jupiter Icy Moons Explorer, while NASA planned Europa Clipper, a spacecraft dedicated to flying past the moon dozens of times to map its surface, analyze its chemistry, and perhaps confirm the existence of plumes. Billions of dollars were pledged to study a place hundreds of millions of miles away, all because of the lure of that unseen ocean. For the public, the fascination was even more immediate. Headlines spoke not only of water, but of life. Documentaries painted Europa as a setting for alien seas. Science fiction writers filled pages with imagined creatures drifting through black waters, some gentle, some monstrous, all captivating. Artists created visions of divers swimming beneath icy ceilings, of submarines exploring alien trenches, of lights piercing eternal darkness. In classrooms, children learned that Europa might be more like Earth than Mars, not a dry desert, but a living ocean world beneath the stars. Picture this growing awareness spreading across the world. A teacher in Japan shows students an image of Europa's cracked surface. A writer in France sketches a story of explorers drilling through its ice. An astronomer in Chile adjusts a telescope, hoping to glimpse signs of a plume. A child in America looks up at the night sky and whispers, Could there be fish on Europa? In these quiet ways, a moon 400 million miles away becomes part of human culture, imagination, and hope. Scientists, too, found themselves moved. Many admitted that if life exists elsewhere in our solar system, Europa is the most promising place to look. Its ocean is shielded from radiation by the thick crust of ice, warmed by internal heat, and seasoned with salts and minerals. The conditions are not only possible for life, they are favorable. To some, Europa is less a question of if and more a question of when we will find a way to look beneath the ice, and when we will know for sure. As fascination grew, so did humility. Europa reminded us that Earth is not unique in its oceans. That water, the cradle of life here, may also cradle life elsewhere. And that even in the silence of space, worlds may hide entire ecosystems, vast and unseen. To know this is to feel both smaller and larger at once. Smaller because we are not the only ocean world, larger because we are part of a cosmos that holds such wonders. As you listen now, let this fascination wash over you like waves. Inhale the possibility, exhale the wonder. Imagine the countless minds around the globe, all united in curiosity about a moon they will never visit, yet which still shapes their dreams. Europa is distant, silent, and unreachable, for now, but it has already entered our collective story. It has become part of what it means to be human. To search, to wonder, and to believe that even in the darkest waters, life may be waiting. The cracked surface. When spacecraft first sent back detailed images of Europa, one feature stood out above all others. The lines. Thin, dark streaks stretched for hundreds of miles across the surface, intersecting and overlapping, forming a web that wrapped the icy moon like veins on a pale hand. Some were straight, some curved, some looped in circles that seemed almost deliberate. They were fractures, scars carved into ice. And yet, they were not random. Scientists realized that these cracks told a story about what lay beneath. On Earth, sea ice breaks and shifts when currents move below, when pressure builds, when warmth forces frozen sheets apart. Europa's surface looked remarkably similar. Its crust had been broken, pulled, and pushed, as if something alive stirred underneath. The ice was not static. It was dynamic, restless, and in motion. The colors of the cracks deepened the mystery. Many were tinted reddish-brown, as though something from beneath had seeped upward to stain the frozen skin. Spectroscopic studies suggested salts and compounds, carried from the ocean below through fractures in the crust. It was as if the hidden sea had reached up with invisible hands, leaving chemical fingerprints on the surface. These traces hinted not only at water, but at chemistry rich enough to matter for life. For the imagination, the cracked surface became a window. Standing on Europa, one might see these lines stretching to the horizon, faint glimmers of color against endless white. Beneath your feet, the ground might creak, alive with the pressure of a shifting ocean below. The silence of the world would be profound, broken only by the groan of ice. And in that silence, you would know you were standing above a sea larger than Earth's, a sea hidden yet immense. The cracks also raised troubling questions. How thick was the ice? Was it 10 miles deep or 20 or more? Could life beneath ever reach the surface? Or were these fractures the only whispers of a world we could not touch? For now, no answers existed. Only the quiet puzzle of lines carved across a moon, marking the tension between a frozen shell and the restless ocean below. As you breathe gently now, imagine tracing those cracks with your eyes, letting them carry you across Europa's vast plains. Each line is a path, each fracture a doorway into the unknown. The surface is broken, yes, but in its brokenness lies beauty, and in its beauty the possibility of life. The chaotic terrain. If the long cracks on Europa's surface suggested slow, steady shifts of ice, then the regions known as chaotic terrain told a different story, one of upheaval, violence, and change. In these areas, the moon's surface looked as though it had been shattered and then frozen mid-collapse. Blocks of ice, some the size of cities, lay tilted and jumbled, scattered like puzzle pieces left unfinished. Between them, the ground appeared darker, rougher, as if melted ice had once welled up and refrozen. When scientists first studied these images, they were astonished. Here was evidence that Europa's surface was not only fractured but had been torn apart and remade. On Earth, similar patterns are found in sea ice when sheets break apart and rotate, leaving gaps that later freeze over. To see this on Europa was to glimpse the hand of a hidden ocean, pressing upward with force strong enough to break miles of ice. The question was immediate. What could cause such chaos? One theory suggested that pockets of liquid water sometimes rise close to the surface, melting and weakening the crust. When the water drains back or freezes again, the ice above collapses, leaving behind jumbled blocks. Another theory imagined vast plumes of warm ice rising slowly from below, stirring the crust until it buckled and broke. Whatever the cause, the chaotic terrain was undeniable proof that Europa was alive, geologically speaking, reshaped not by craters from the outside, but by processes from within. Picture yourself standing at the edge of such a landscape. Around you, towers of ice lean at impossible angles, silent monuments to ancient upheaval. The ground beneath your feet is uneven, broken, scarred by fractures filled with frozen salts. All is still now, but the shapes tell of movement, of collapse, of a world that once groaned with change. Above, Jupiter looms enormous in the sky, its storms swirling, its gravity pulling, forever shaping the fate of its moon. For scientists, chaotic terrain was a gift and a frustration. A gift, because it revealed the presence of energy and motion beneath the ice, both vital ingredients for the possibility of life. A frustration because it raised more questions than it answered. Did these events happen millions of years ago? Or are they still happening today? Could pockets of liquid water near the surface provide havens for microbes, or perhaps even pathways to the deeper ocean? As you listen, let your imagination drift across this alien landscape. See the broken blocks glinting under pale sunlight, casting long shadows across the ice. Hear the silence of a world remade, and feel the weight of the mystery pressing upward from below. Europa's chaotic terrain is more than frozen rubble. It is a message carved into the surface. This world is not still, but restless. And in that restlessness may lie the conditions for life. The plumes of water vapor. Among the most tantalizing hints that Europa hides a vast ocean beneath its icy crust came not from the surface itself, but from the thin space above it. In 2012, astronomers using the Hubble Space Telescope reported something extraordinary. Faint signatures of water vapor rising from Europa's south polar region. These were not illusions, not simple atmospheric haze, but plumes, jets of water bursting through cracks in the ice, reaching hundreds of miles into space before falling back to the surface. The discovery changed everything. Until then, the ocean beneath Europa had seemed sealed away, unreachable, locked under miles of frozen shell. But if plumes erupted from its depths, even occasionally, they provided a natural bridge between the hidden sea and the vastness of space. A spacecraft could, in theory, fly through the vapor and sample droplets of the ocean without drilling, without landing, without disturbing the surface. For scientists, it was like finding a window into a locked room, a chance to peek inside without breaking the door. The plumes were faint, fleeting, and difficult to confirm. Hubble saw them only intermittently, and other instruments struggled to capture them. But the possibility was enough to inspire missions and proposals. NASA's Europa Clipper, set to launch in the coming years, carries instruments designed specifically to test whether such plumes exist, to sniff their chemistry, to search for salts, organic compounds, even possible markers of life. Picture the scene as though you were there. Europa's surface stretches pale and silent, the cracks dark against the white ice. Then, from one fissure near the South Pole, a geyser erupts, invisible to the naked eye in the vacuum of space, but shimmering in ultraviolet light. Droplets arc high above the surface, glittering faintly against the blackness. Jupiter looms in the sky, its immense gravity pulling gently at the plume, as though curious itself. And then, just as quietly, the fountain fades, leaving only silence once more. For those who dream of finding life beyond Earth, the plumes are a promise. They suggest that Europa is not closed forever, but speaks in brief bursts, offering samples of its hidden ocean to the void. If we can catch those whispers, we may one day read the story of that sea. Its salts, its organics, perhaps even its biology. As you rest now, let this vision drift through your thoughts. Imagine standing at the edge of Europa's ice, watching the geyser rise in silence, feeling the spray of alien seawater frozen into mist. Each plume is a reminder. The ocean is there, alive, restless, waiting. And though we cannot yet dive into its depths, we may already be breathing the traces of its secret breath. The unanswered questions. Even with spacecraft images, magnetic readings, and hints of plumes, Europa remains wrapped in mystery. Each discovery has brought us closer to understanding, yet each answer opens into more questions. The evidence points strongly toward an ocean, but the nature of that ocean, its depth, its chemistry, its habitability, remains hidden. How thick is the ice that seals it away? Some models suggest 10 miles, others 20, still others far more. If the shell is thin, then the ocean may communicate with the surface, exchanging salts, gases, and nutrients. But if the ice is thick, the ocean may be sealed for eternity, cut off from the starlight and surface chemistry that could nourish life. Which is true? For now, we cannot say. What is the ocean made of? We know Earth's seas are rich with minerals, salts, and energy from hydrothermal vents. But Europa's ocean may be different, flavored by chemicals unfamiliar to us. Will it be acidic or alkaline? Will it be rich with carbon compounds, the building blocks of life, or will it be sterile, a sea of water with no nourishment within? The answers wait in silence beneath the ice. And if there is life, what shape does it take? On Earth, microbes thrive in the darkness of deep oceans, clinging to vents that release warmth and chemicals. Could Europa harbor similar organisms, alien in form but familiar in principle? Or might it hold something more complex? Strange fish-like beings, drifting in the eternal night, their bodies shaped by pressures and conditions we can barely imagine? Or perhaps the ocean is lifeless, and the only story it tells is one of water without breath. There are questions, too, of time. How long has the ocean existed? Has it been liquid for billions of years, long enough for life to emerge? Or did it form more recently, still young, still raw, still without the spark of biology? Time shapes possibility, and Europa's history is still a riddle. Perhaps the greatest question is whether we will ever know. Missions are planned, instruments prepared, but drilling through miles of ice remains beyond our reach. Even if plumes rise, they are faint, fleeting, uncertain. We stand at the edge of wonder, looking at a door we cannot yet open. As you let these questions drift through your thoughts, allow them to soften rather than weigh on you. They are not puzzles to be solved tonight, but lullabies of curiosity, gentle reminders that not knowing is also part of the human journey. In the end, Europa's unanswered questions mirror our own, about life, about meaning, about our place in the cosmos. And so, as the chapter closes, we are left with silence. But it is not an empty silence. It is a silence filled with promise, with possibility, with oceans unseen. A silence that invites us to dream. Enceladus, the cryovolcanic moon of Saturn. To understand Europa more fully, we must look outward to another icy world, orbiting not Jupiter but Saturn. This is Enceladus, a small moon only a few hundred miles across, far smaller than Europa, yet alive with activity. If Europa whispers of an ocean, Enceladus shouts it into the void. In 2005, the Cassini spacecraft flew past Enceladus and made a discovery that stunned scientists. From its south polar region, enormous geysers erupted, spraying water vapor and ice crystals into space. These plumes stretched hundreds of miles, forming a glowing halo that shone in Cassini's cameras. Unlike Europa's faint, uncertain plumes, Enceladus's fountains were unmistakable, visible proof that a hidden ocean lay beneath the surface. The evidence grew even stronger when Cassini flew directly through the plumes, sampling the particles with its instruments. What it found was astonishing. Water laced with salts, organic molecules, and even tiny grains of silica, evidence of hydrothermal activity at the ocean floor. On Earth, such hydrothermal vents host entire ecosystems, teeming with life that thrives in darkness, feeding not on sunlight but on chemical energy. Enceladus, though small and distant, suddenly became one of the most promising places to search for life beyond Earth. The comparison to Europa was immediate. Both are icy moons, both warmed by tidal forces from their giant planets, both hiding oceans beneath ice. But where Europa's secrets are locked away, Enceladus offers them freely, spraying its ocean into space for any passing spacecraft to taste. In this way, Enceladus serves as proof of concept. Ocean worlds are real, they exist in our solar system, and they can be habitable. Picture yourself drifting near Enceladus, the geysers erupting beneath you, glittering in the sunlight against Saturn's majestic rings. You would feel awe at the sight, the sheer power of water bursting from beneath miles of ice. And you would know, without question, that below that surface lies a sea as real as any on Earth. For Europa, the comparison is both hopeful and frustrating. Hopeful because if Enceladus can sustain an ocean with hydrothermal activity and organic chemistry, then Europa, larger, with more heat, more gravity, and more resources, may host even more potential. Frustrating because Europa remains harder to reach, its secrets sealed more tightly. Yet together, the two moons tell a story that cannot be ignored. Our solar system is not dry, not barren, but rich with hidden seas, waiting for us to listen. Earth's ancient oceans. When we look at Europa and imagine an ocean sealed beneath miles of ice, we are not only looking outward, but also inward, toward the story of our own world. For Earth, too, was once a place of oceans hidden in darkness, long before sunlight reached the depths, long before complex creatures swam through its waves. By studying our planet's past, we find clues that echo across the gulf of space, guiding our imagination as we think of Europa's silent seas. Billions of years ago, Earth's oceans were very different from the blue expanses we know today. They were darker, clouded with minerals, their chemistry raw and restless. In those ancient waters, there was no oxygen, no plants, no fish. And yet, within that seemingly hostile environment, life began. Simple microbes clinging to hydrothermal vents on the seafloor learned to use chemical gradients as energy. From that quiet spark, the story of all living things unfolded. When scientists imagine Europa's hidden ocean, they often picture something similar. Beneath its ice, at the boundary where water meets rocky mantle, heat from tidal forces may drive hydrothermal activity. There, minerals and warmth could mix, creating pockets where life might arise. If it happened here on Earth, why not there, in another ocean, hidden from view but alive with possibility? The comparison goes further still. On Earth, life persisted in the deep sea long before sunlight-driven ecosystems evolved. Even today, the creatures around hydrothermal vents astonish us. Giant tube worms, blind shrimp, entire communities thriving without a single ray of sunlight. These ecosystems prove that light is not necessary for life, only energy and chemistry. Europa's dark waters may be strange to us, but they would not be uninhabitable. Picture this. You descend into Earth's ocean trenches, miles beneath the surface. The pressure is immense, the darkness complete, yet the seafloor glows with vents, black smoke pouring into the water. Around these chimneys, life flourishes, microbes, worms, crabs, feeding on minerals, thriving in silence. Now shift that vision to Europa. Replace the basalt seafloor with alien rock. Replace Earth's gravity with Jupiter's pull. Replace familiar life with something strange but possible. The pattern holds. Where there is water, energy, and chemistry, life finds a way. For humanity, the link between Europa and Earth's ancient oceans is a reminder of kinship. If life exists there, it would not be utterly alien, but distant cousins, born of the same universal principles. If it does not, then Europa still teaches us humility. That oceans alone are not enough, that life is precious, fragile, and rare. Either way, the story of Earth's past helps us look to Europa with new eyes. Our oceans birthed us, and perhaps theirs may one day reveal neighbors we have never known. Europa among the ocean worlds. Europa is not alone. As our knowledge of the solar system has grown, we have come to realize that Earth's seas are not unique, but part of a family of hidden oceans scattered across distant moons. Enceladus at Saturn, with its dazzling plumes, Titan, Saturn's largest moon, with lakes of liquid methane and the possibility of a buried ocean. Ganymede, Europa's sibling, the largest moon in the solar system, whose magnetic readings also hint at salty depths. Even Callisto, ancient and battered, may conceal liquid water far beneath its ice. Together, these bodies are known as the ocean worlds. Europa stands among them as one of the most compelling. Its ocean is vast, perhaps more extensive than all of Earth's combined. Its surface is young, renewed by forces from below. Its chemistry shows salts and compounds, the whisper of exchange between ocean and surface. And its proximity to Jupiter ensures constant tidal heating, energy that may keep the waters liquid and dynamic. If there is anywhere beyond Earth that might support life, Europa shines brightly on that list. The comparison among these worlds deepens the mystery. Some, like Enceladus, reveal their oceans openly through plumes. Others, like Titan, cloak theirs beneath layers of atmosphere and exotic chemistry. Europa sits between them, silent, withholding, yet irresistible. It does not give us fountains visible to every camera, yet it offers hints strong enough to ignite imagination. It is both the most promising and the most elusive of the ocean worlds. For scientists, Europa represents the next frontier. Missions like Europa Clipper and JUICE are not merely technical ventures. They are voyages of hope, designed to answer the question that has haunted humanity for centuries. Are we alone? If life has found a way in Europa's depths, then life may be common, spread wherever oceans and energy exist. If not, then perhaps life is rarer than we wish, and our own existence becomes even more precious. Picture Europa now, not in isolation, but as part of a constellation of ocean-bearing worlds. Each one is a bead on a string, scattered across the outer solar system, each whispering of water, each carrying possibility. Together they remind us that oceans are not rare, but abundant, that the universe favors liquid water as a canvas, even if it has not yet painted the brushstrokes of life upon it. And so Europa takes its place among these companions, not as the only ocean world, but as one of many. Its uniqueness lies not in its water alone, but in the strength of its evidence, the richness of its mysteries, and the depth of its silence. It stands as both a mirror and a promise, reflecting what we know from Earth, and promising what we may one day discover among the stars. Natural explanations. When we gaze at Europa and wonder whether life hides beneath its ice, the first path of thought is the most cautious. Perhaps the moon's secrets are remarkable, but entirely natural. Scientists remind us that unusual does not always mean alive. Strange does not always mean intentional. Europa's mysteries may yet be explained by the laws of geology, chemistry, and physics, operating in ways we have only begun to understand. Consider the ocean itself. Its presence, if confirmed, does not guarantee biology. Water may be abundant, but it may also be sterile. The salts and minerals drawn upward through cracks in the ice could be the result of purely chemical processes, no more alive than the crystals that form in Earth's caves. The plumes of vapor, so tantalizing to us, may be nothing more than pressure release, water vented like steam from a kettle, carrying no hint of organisms within. The chaotic terrains, those jumbled blocks of ice, may speak not of biology but of physics. As Jupiter pulls and squeezes Europa, the crust fractures and shifts. Heat rises, pockets of liquid water melt and freeze again, leaving shattered landscapes in their wake. What looks to our eyes like signs of restlessness and energy could be the simple dance of ice responding to gravity. It is dramatic, yes, but not alive. Even the possibility of hydrothermal vents on the ocean floor may not be a promise of life. On Earth, such vents teem with organisms, but only because biology had already begun. On a lifeless world, those same vents might only release heat and minerals into the water, stirring chemical reactions that never cross the threshold into biology. The conditions may be right, and yet the spark may never ignite. Picture Europa's ocean as it might be if sterile. A vast abyss of black water, stretching deeper than any trench on Earth, silent, still, empty. No fish, no microbes, no movement, only the weight of endless liquid pressing down on rock. To us, it would feel lonely, perhaps even tragic. But to nature, it would simply be another expression of possibility. Water without life, a stage without actors, a canvas left blank. This perspective does not diminish Europa's wonder. On the contrary, it reminds us that the universe is vast enough to hold both abundance and emptiness. The ocean beneath its ice may be a marvel of geology, shaped by forces we barely comprehend, a living lesson in planetary science, even if not in biology. To accept this is to honor the cosmos as it is, not only as we wish it to be. As you rest with this thought, let it bring calm rather than disappointment. Not every mystery must resolve into revelation. Sometimes the beauty lies in the questions themselves. Europa, even if lifeless, would still be extraordinary. A moon that carries an ocean across billions of years, silent, hidden, waiting. The possibility of extraterrestrial life. After the cautious voice of science reminds us that Europa may be sterile, another voice rises quietly within us, one that wonders. But what if it is not? What if, beneath its ice, Europa's ocean is alive? What if in those dark waters, something swims, something breathes, something endures, as it has for millions of years? The idea is not fantasy but grounded in parallels from Earth. On our own planet, life has proven to be astonishingly adaptable. In the deepest trenches, where sunlight never penetrates, microbes cling to vents and thrive on chemical energy. In caves sealed for millions of years, bacteria have survived, isolated from the surface. Even in Antarctic lakes, trapped beneath miles of ice, ecosystems persist in cold darkness. If Earth can produce life in such places, why not Europa, where conditions may be similar or even richer? Scientists imagine microbes as the most likely candidates. Simple organisms, swimming unseen in the black waters, feeding on minerals, multiplying slowly but steadily. If such microbes exist, they may resemble Earth's extremophiles, tiny but resilient, proving that life does not need light, only energy. But imagination does not stop there. Some dream of larger creatures, shaped by pressures and chemistries we can barely imagine. Fish-like beings with translucent skin drifting in silence. Jellyfish that pulse gently through the water, glowing faintly with bioluminescence. Perhaps even colonies of organisms that build structures near vents, shaping an alien ecosystem in the dark. None of this is proven, but all of it is possible. The presence of life on Europa would carry staggering implications. It would mean that life is not unique to Earth, but common wherever water and energy meet. It would suggest that the universe is filled with living worlds, each carrying its own forms, its own stories, its own paths of evolution. It would answer the question that has haunted humanity for centuries. Are we alone? Picture yourself descending through Europa's ice, lowering into the black ocean below. At first, all is darkness, the weight of miles of ice above you. Then, slowly, a glow appears, vents on the seafloor, releasing heat into the abyss. Around them, strange shapes drift, moving softly, gracefully, unaware of the human eyes imagining them. They live without sunlight, without sky, without surface. Their entire universe is the ocean. To them, nothing else exists. Even if life there is only microbial, its existence would be profound. For it would mean that biology is not a rare accident, but a natural outcome of chemistry and time. It would mean that wherever oceans form, life may follow. And if life can arise twice within one solar system, it may arise countless times across the galaxy. As you let this thought cradle you, allow the wonder to soften your mind. You do not need to decide tonight whether Europa is alive. You need only to drift with the possibility, to let it soothe you like the rocking of waves. Whether microbes or fish or silence, the ocean beneath Europa's ice is a reminder of how vast, how mysterious, how generous the universe may be. The dark forest imagination. There is one more path of speculation, and it is the most haunting of all. It does not ask simply whether Europa's ocean holds life, but whether that life, if it exists, has chosen to remain silent. This is the essence of what some call the dark forest hypothesis. Imagine the universe as an endless forest at night. Each civilization is like a traveler moving softly among the trees, holding a small lantern of light. To reveal yourself, to speak too loudly, is to risk attracting others, some curious, some dangerous. And so most stay quiet. They hide their fires, they muffle their footsteps, they listen rather than announce. In this vision, silence is not emptiness, but survival. Now place Europa within that forest. If its ocean is alive, perhaps the beings there know only their own dark sea. To them, the ice above is the sky, the ceiling of their world, unbroken and eternal. But what if they sense vibrations, faint whispers of Jupiter's pull, even echoes of our machines as they pass nearby? Would they respond? Or would they, like the cautious traveler in the dark forest, choose silence? It is not impossible to imagine intelligence in such a place, though not intelligence as we know it. Perhaps networks of organisms communicate through chemical signals, weaving knowledge through currents rather than words. Perhaps creatures have learned to hide from predators in the vast blackness, becoming masters of silence. On such a world, survival itself might depend on remaining unseen, unheard, unrecognized. From our perspective, Europa is quiet. No radio signals escape its ice. No structures rise above its surface. No light pulses from its ocean. But in the metaphor of the dark forest, such quiet is not surprising. It is exactly what we should expect. If life exists there, it may be cautious. It may have no need to reveal itself. Or it may simply be waiting, patient beyond our comprehension, enduring in ways we cannot imagine. Picture yourself floating above Europa, Jupiter looming like a giant lantern in the sky. Beneath you, miles of ice conceal an ocean where silence is not emptiness, but life's oldest strategy. You strain to listen, but hear nothing. And perhaps that is the point. The universe may be filled with voices that choose not to speak. This vision does not frighten so much as humble. It reminds us that life, if it exists elsewhere, may be shaped by instincts we barely understand. That our urge to explore, to announce ourselves, is not universal. That survival in the cosmos may mean staying quiet, drifting unseen, like Europa beneath its shell of ice. As you settle into this thought, let the silence of Europa's ocean become a comfort. Each breath you take is like a ripple through water, gentle, unnoticed, fading into stillness. Whether or not the dark forest is real, it offers us a way to understand the quiet. Silence need not be emptiness, can be presence, patience, and peace. Human meaning and sleep philosophy. When we pause to reflect on Europa, the questions it raises go far beyond science. They touch something deeply human. For in the silence of that frozen moon, we see not only the possibility of another ocean, but also a mirror of ourselves, our hopes, our fears, our longing for connection in a vast universe. Think for a moment about water itself. On Earth, it is the cradle of life, the element that sustains us. We drink it, we bathe in it, we are made mostly of it. Our earliest ancestors first stirred in the oceans, rising from currents that carried the spark of biology. Even today, the sound of waves can calm us. The sight of rivers can move us. The feel of rain can renew us. Water is more than chemistry. It is memory, comfort, and meaning. To imagine oceans on Europa is to imagine echoes of our own beginnings, far from home yet strangely familiar. And yet, Europa also reminds us of humility. If its seas are lifeless, then water alone is not enough. Life, as precious as it is, may be fragile, rare, and fleeting. We may be unique, or nearly so, a brief flame in an otherwise dark cosmos. If that is true, then our responsibility deepens. To cherish Earth, to protect its fragile ecosystems, to recognize that this blue planet may be rarer than we once believed. But if life does exist beneath Europa's ice, then the meaning shifts again. Suddenly, we are not alone. We would be one branch of a much larger tree, proof that biology can take root wherever conditions allow. Such a discovery would transform not only science but philosophy, religion, and our sense of place. We would know that the universe is not silent, but alive, that even in the darkest oceans, life finds a way to endure. Both possibilities, the lifeless ocean and the living one, are profound. Both remind us of the same truth, that we are part of something larger than ourselves. Whether unique or one among many, our story is bound to the stars, to the moons, to the hidden oceans we may never touch. Picture yourself standing beneath the night sky, breathing slowly. Above you, Jupiter and Europa drift silently, their presence unseen by most. And yet you know they are there. You know that beneath Europa's crust lies an ocean deeper than any trench on Earth. That knowledge alone is enough to stir wonder. You do not need answers tonight. You need only to rest in the mystery, to let the vastness of the universe cradle you into calm. There is a philosophy that says wonder is a form of rest. To wonder is to release the need for control, to let the unknown be what it is, without forcing it to resolve. In that sense, Europa is a perfect companion for sleep. It does not shout, it does not answer. It simply drifts, silent and patient, inviting us to imagine. As you drift toward dreams, let the thought of its hidden seas rock you gently, like waves beneath ice, slow and eternal. And perhaps, as you close your eyes, you may feel a connection across time and space. From Galileo's first sighting of Europa through a crude telescope, to the spacecraft that mapped its scars, to the children today who dream of diving into its ocean, we are all bound together by curiosity. Curiosity is the thread, wonder is the lullaby, and sleep is the place where both can rest. So let your breath be your tide. Inhale and you rise gently upward. Exhale and you sink deeper into calm. The ocean of Europa is far away, hidden, silent. But tonight, in your imagination, it is close and it is peaceful. Closing. And so, our journey across the icy plains of Europa comes to an end. We began with the first faint glimpses through Galileo's telescope, when Europa was no more than a point of light circling Jupiter. We followed the age of spacecraft, when Voyager and Galileo revealed its smooth surface and fractured crust. We traced the evidence for an ocean, hidden yet immense, from magnetic fields to reddish streaks to plumes whispering into space. We compared it to other ocean worlds, to Earth's ancient seas, and to the mysteries of Enceladus. We dreamed of microbes, of strange glowing creatures, of a silence that might itself be a strategy for survival. Europa has not answered our questions. It remains silent, still waiting. Yet that silence is not emptiness, it is invitation. An invitation to wonder, to imagine, to recognize that our story is part of a cosmos larger than we can yet grasp. Whether its ocean is lifeless or alive, Europa holds meaning. If lifeless, it reminds us to cherish the rare and fragile gift of life on Earth. If alive, it reminds us that we are not alone, that biology may flourish wherever oceans and energy meet. Either way, Europa whispers the same truth. The universe is vast, and within it, mystery is not weakness, but beauty. As you rest now, let that beauty soothe you. Picture the moon drifting silently above Jupiter, its icy shell gleaming under distant sunlight. Beneath it, a sea waits, timeless and patient. Above it, the stars scatter their light across eternity. And here, on Earth, you breathe quietly, part of that same universe, small yet significant. Close your eyes, let your thoughts soften, and drift like a traveler through space. Europa is far away, but tonight it is near. In your imagination, in your wonder, in your dreams. Sleep well and remember, the cosmos is alive with questions, and every question is a lullaby waiting to be heard.